Right, so this is going to be a quick demo of what I've been able to build. And finally I got it to work because the keyboard input was broken and also the MeshColliders were broken on runtime in VR. So I had to do a lot of debugging, and finally I have been able to figure it out. So that is the thing that I currently have on my head, which is the VR headset. And now I'm going to test out whether I can actually select something in the VR application, and if everything goes all right, the changes will be visible inside of the Revit application. So let's see if it works. So right now I see in front of me my little connection dialog where I can select the IP address, and when I look at Revit, it should say at which IP address it hosted the server, and here it says 192.168.2.13, and that means that I have to select the same one. I should be on the same network, and then I press connect, and all of a sudden it connects. And inside of this VR experience, there is multiple objects that are or multiple elements that have been sent from Revit to Unity or to the VR headset. And as you can see right here, this is the same geometry. So I'm viewing this from a specific viewpoint in VR, and it should be, yeah, I'm viewing it from this angle. And the sun is a bit extreme, but what I can do now is inside of VR, I can hover over this one and select it, and you can see that in Revit we get a select element event, and we'll select it here, and then we send an event back to VR like, hey, we selected this. So I can try this out a couple of times, and it should select the right element. And it also works if I select something inside of Revit. That one is not visible from my viewpoint, but if I select things, then this will also be communicated to the VR application. And the thing I want to do now is make sure that I get some properties of the selected element, and then give the user the ability to edit this. So right now this is just a quick mock-up, and there is currently no edit sketch, modify sub-elements, or the ability to edit properties implemented, but that is something I want to do in a while. And I also want to see whether this works, which is the editing of properties. And as we can see, that works. It does deselect it, so we should send the selection event again, or we should cache the selection inside of Unity and then update accordingly. So if we look at the different elements, we can also change the height of this, which is not changing that much. Maybe change the height of this one, 30 meters, and that updates immediately. And then if I select it inside of here, it should select it as well in Revit. So this is the very basic functionality of, it's basically kind of like a hello world going from VR to Revit, and having some sort of way to communicate the data that is inside of Revit to Unity, and also from Unity to Revit back, using this simple way of writing a server client application communication protocol, just sending some events over a WebSocket connection. And if we look at this, look at the settings, we can disconnect, we can connect again. So it's fairly straightforward and robust, and everything just happens via these events. So that's the quick thing I wanted to showcase, and also the thing I want to try to do right now is to enable actually editing the shape of this this object, but I might refrain from doing that because it's kind of hard, because you have to do a lot of things with editing the curves, for example. So you have to implement arcs and lines, and that's going to require some research, which I currently don't have the time for. But that might be an interesting future step to work on for this VR Revit integration. And I think the most realistic way to go about adding some editing functionality is to just enable the ability to either delete an element or change the subdivide height of a subdivision. So that's one property I might be able to edit. So that's the current state of the project. I'm quite happy with where I was able to get, in the sense that it works. I've been battling so many bugs and issues with keyboard input. Like, for example, if I press this, I had to fix this whole thing because there's some bugs inside of the input field and inside of the way Unity handles input events, and also how Meta handles the dismissal of a keyboard. There were so many small issues that you can't really see in the final prototype, but that do take up a lot of time. So this is less than what I wanted, but I'm happy that it actually works. Also because I'm communicating or deserializing messages and serializing messages or data into messages to JSON strings that we can send over the network using system.text.json. I also had to refrain from using IL2CPP, which is the compiler that Unity ships to transpile, or it's not really transpile, compiling intermediate language from C# to C++, which improves runtime performance, but it doesn't work well with system.text.json. So I just had to set the architecture, CPU architecture, to 32 bits instead of 64 bits, so ARM v7. And that's about it. I would have liked it to be 64 bits and use IL2CPP, but for now this suffices for a prototype. And now I'm going to see if I can enable the editing of some things inside of VR and send that data back to Revit.